episode of Let's Talk About Sex and Something. So, my name is Youngboss Karen, and if you don't know, Let's Talk About Sex and Something is the show, my show, where I basically talk about sex and something. And for this week's something, we're going to be talking about sex and kids. This has been a topic that has been trending for a while, especially where I'm from, where people talk about how they would broach the subject of sex to their kids. It's pretty tricky and it's scary, especially in our society, where talking about sex to kids is somewhat difficult because a lot of parents don't know where to start from. A lot of parents don't know what to say and what not to say, what to say to get them not curious and try out stuff that they're telling them not to try. I don't know if that makes sense. And just basically what to do, having the talk with your kids and how it's supposed to work. So I've thought about it a lot, and to a large extent, I don't know how exactly to go about these things because I don't think I had the talk properly with my parents, especially my mom. A lot of times they leave these conversations to the moms. I don't know why they do it in our society, but I know the only talk I had with my mom as a kid was if you get too close to a guy, you're going to get pregnant. And pregnancy has always been the scare, for people within, even not just me, a lot of kids within my generation and all. The scare to keep us from doing a lot of things has always been pregnancy. So don't do this or else you're going to get pregnant. Don't do that or else you're going to get pregnant. And it's like, so the only essence of this is to get pregnant or to not get pregnant. So yeah, that was the talk a lot of kids like me got from our parents. And it wasn't enough. You can't do that with the kids we have these days. There's a lot of information on the internet. There's so much they already know. I don't even understand how they know this stuff, but they just know a lot of stuff. And you can't just tell them don't do this or you get pregnant because they know so much. So the question is, what do you tell your kids? How can you have the talk without getting them to try out stuff you're not supposed to try out, and to just know that in due time, when it's their time, they can do these things and it's worth waiting for. We're not always, right now, we no longer preach wait till marriage. We just preach wait till you're old enough. Yeah, because the wait till marriage stuff, it, to me, I feel it's outdated. I don't know about others, but you can't preach wait till marriage to kids these days who see that their parents had them before they were married. It's not going to work. As far as I know, I'm going to ask questions. You're telling me to wait till marriage. What about you? Kids these days are very outspoken, and I think a lot of things just won't work with them. I have my nephews, and I know how outspoken kids can be. They don't just take things. You can't just tell them something and they will do it. They ask the very annoying question, why? And they're asking you, why shouldn't I do this? Or why should I do this? Or why are you stopping me from doing something you obviously did? So you can do it, so why can't I do it? And it's it's difficult to an extent with kids these days because you're telling them one thing and the internet tells them another thing. So how do you go about this? For this show, this particular what do I call it? What do I call it? Episode. Yes, in this particular episode, I have a guest, and I'm going to be bringing up my guest right now, so she can talk as well. We're talking about sex and kids. So I've just been talking about rambling to myself about how the kind of instructions we were given as kids cannot work for the generation we have now. Like our own sex talk was, don't, if you gotta meet a man, you carry belly. And right
You got
now,
that sex talk. I didn't get
that
that.
was all I got to. They say if
I
you near
didn't get
man,
that.
I that was the
I
only
didn't
talk
get
I
that.
got. If you go close to a
I only
man,
heard
you
that
get pregnant.
from I heard that from my mates, but I never got that sex talk. I never got a sex talk actually.
Wow.
But what my mom did was that she gave me a book. There's this book called 1001 Healthcare Questions Women Ask. I don't know if you've seen that book before, but it was one
No.
of her textbooks back in school. So she knew that I liked reading then, so she just gave me that book like read oh. And that was basically my sex education. And I'm really thankful for that book actually, because that book taught me about my body. I didn't even know about my body, but I learned everything about my body from that book. So I can say that my mom tried at least. She made an effort.
Yeah. She noticed
Yeah,
what she liked and she just went through there. That's actually a good way of doing things.
yeah.
Ours
But
was
we never actually like communicated on about sex. Like,
no,
oh, sex is even a sacred word. Like today I can say
not
sex freely.
actually, you can't even say it. You can't you can't even use that word with them. It's like it's what a man and a woman do. That's the best way you can say it.
Yeah. I
My
don't
own
even
son,
remember my
yeah.
yeah.
Not
Like I
say
don't have okay, go on.
mine
I
was
said
really just it was really just simple. You have come to an age where if you go too close to a man, you will get pregnant. No questions asked. That was it. That's all.
but you obviously knew that that wasn't true,
That
right?
oh, I was naive. I took it. I didn't
Are
get
you
too close to
serious?
guys.
Like what
Yes,
age?
that was when I was about 9. Yeah, from
Are you
9. I just
serious?
yes. So I really held on to that from when I was 9 till I was like 14, 15. Before before I started asking proper questions like, okay, what goes where? What happens?
I
I
don't know
didn't have
how.
a clue.
I don't know how, but at 9 years old, I knew what sex was. I don't remember how.
Nope. The only reason I was told that was because I had hit puberty at 9. That's the only reason I got that info. If I hadn't, I probably would have been naive, more naive until I was like maybe
Um,
14. Puberty came in late. Because that was the only reason why I knew what I knew then. So the question is, these things might not be able to work with kids these days. I know we have kids who are very what's the word? Ugh, and
sharp or
we have kids who are very sharp, then we have the ones that are really secluded to themselves. We have them in different ways. So maybe I don't know if books can still work for kids. Would you just give them a storybook like the way your mom did for you? Would that work for kids these days? What do you think?
it might help. Like there are different ways to go about the sex talk. So if that's an avenue, like, and you feel your child will read, then that works
Yeah,
too. Like I think we have
yeah.
storybooks for kids about sex. The book I actually read wasn't a children's book; it was a university textbook. But it's just that I was able to understand it. But I don't think not every kid can understand that. But there
Yeah,
are actually books that kids can read these days, and that's just one way. There are several ways. Like I remember when I was little, when we were watching a movie, like with my dad, my mom, and it gets
yeah.
to a kissing scene, just kiss, oh, not even sex. My dad would change the channel, my mom would hiss, like just for kiss, like it was like abomination. And I was looking at these people like, well, you are married now, you used to kiss, so what's all the drama for? So, but I figured later on that that was like a way of educating me about sex in their own way. Like, this is not
Yeah.
for you, you're a kid, yeah, something like that. So I think your everyday life, everyday conversations with your kids, you can just chip it in once in a while. It doesn't have to be, oh, sit down, we have to have a sex talk.
The talk. It's called the
That,
talk.
yeah, that, it mustn't be a talk. Like your everyday conversations, sometimes you can ask them, talk to them, find out what they know
Yeah.
about sex, just make them comfortable. Like I've never been comfortable talking about sex with my mom. Never till now.
Really? It's
Never.
like an abomination. No, it's an abomination.
Yeah.
You don't.
But I see
They
parents
just
these
skip
days and
they skip
I
the
see
don't have
parents these
sex
days and
and
it's
when are you
easy.
having kids? They just skip what happens in between.
Exactly. But these days, like I've lived with a family before, and she's a young mom. She even has a teenager already. But then I see the way like she talks to them, and you can tell that she's making efforts. Like what these kids know about sex, they started from home. They didn't learn it from the internet first or from TV. It was just simple conversations the mom was asking them. Like they was very comfortable. Like, mommy, something's wrong with my body. Like I don't know. I woke up and my belly was wet. It's like, what's the meaning of this? Like they're very comfortable, and
Yeah,
that's a way. That's the way you can start it. It's not really hard. You just have to be comfortable, make them comfortable, and you find out that they tell you everything, anything they want to know, they come and ask you. So these days, yeah, different ways. Just make your kids your guys. I feel
true.
it will be easier.
True.
Yeah,
But then, okay, now like what trended a while ago? The idea of mm, the idea of kids being exposed to the internet. Do you think that plays a terrible role in these things? Because that maybe your kid could come across things that they see online and they won't be free telling you these things because they know that it's bad.
yeah.
So how can we like control what they see on the internet to what we tell them at home to how do we create that balance where they don't just go
You can't
haywire?
really, you can't control everything. You can't
True.
control everything they do, but you have to make an effort. That's just it. You have to make an effort.
Okay.
So, like, I feel like you can't withdraw internet devices from your kids. Like, that's not proper. They learn with these things too. They have to be exposed.
Exactly.
So you can't
Exactly.
withdraw that. You just have to like put a limit on how much they're exposed to. And you can't give them full access like throughout. You can't just leave a kid with their phone throughout the day. A 9-year-old, 10-year-old throughout. It's not proper. I never experienced that. I didn't even have like internet back then. But my small phone, just for calls, my dad would still take it from me. There was a limit, like you know that so and so time you're getting your phone, you can call your friends, whatever, but then I'll take it back from you by this time. So it's not I don't think it's okay to just give them full access to everything, full access to the internet, full access to
Yeah.
television. You have to control these things, set up like privacy settings. I don't know, just to do something. You can't give them full access because that's how they go
True.
haywire. Yeah,
True. True. Yeah, I guess because a lot of people have been saying these things like my kid won't have a phone until they are 13, my kid won't have a phone until they are 15. I'm like, really? In this day and age, is that possible?
when now they're learning on their phones.
Do you
They have
understand? You don't
online
even
classes.
teach you don't even teach a kid how to use a phone these days. Just drop the phone with the child and just watch them figure out your password or
Yeah,
just that's when you realize they've been watching you ever since and they just know what your password is. They know how to install games without you teaching them. They just know stuff because of when they're born. And you saying my kid isn't going to watch these TV shows, my kid isn't going to do this, dude, like no.
they always find their way around it.
They
Like
always
my brother,
like
my brother restricted me from watching a show when I was like 10 years old, and I still found my way around it. So I still
like
watch it.
I think for me, I didn't have any of those restrictions, which is funny.
Yeah,
Like TV restrictions, I watched every cartoon that was available. Nothing you won't tell me. Then there was also the aspect of even adult content. So there are
yeah,
shows like One Tree Hill. Then One Tree Hill had sexual content in it, and I was allowed to watch it. My parents saw me watching it. Like they would see me watching it when adults are
yeah.
And I remember one particular time when the a guy and his wife they were having sex, and my dad looked at me and he was like, "I'm letting you watch this thing so you see that they are adults doing it." I think that's the best sex education I ever got from
Yeah,
my dad. It was like, "I'm letting you watch this so you see that it's adults doing it, not young children." But then the crazy thing about One Tree Hill was that they were, high school students who were having sex, but they didn't know that. But yeah, we got the sex education in different
yeah,
ways. And for me, I guess it helped. I guess I don't know if my own pattern would work on kids these days because as far as I know, my parents didn't know anything I was doing. They didn't. They had no clue. They had no clue the kind of shows I was watching. But I was just a naive kid that I was
Yeah,
watching these shows, but I didn't entirely understand. I didn't bother trying to understand entirely. So that gave me some kind of, limits to what I could and
yeah,
couldn't do. Then there's the aspect of phones. I mean, I was allowed to have my phones. Like I think I had the era of to go. We had
yeah,
phones then when I was like 14, 13, 14. I was on to go. There were to go chat room, sex chat rooms. All those things
yeah.
were available then at
But
my
you didn't act
disposal
on any of that.
whenever. I didn't.
Why?
I was so naive. Like
Why do you
I
think
would
you
see these things
didn't?
and they were gross. They were just gross to me.
Exactly.
I guess it's just a
It's
personality
a
thing.
personal thing.
It's just kids are different. People are different,
Yeah,
and even from childhood, people are born with differences from once they're born. So for me, I was irritated and creeped out by a lot of things. But for another kid, they're seeing this and they're like, "Ooh, let me try this. What's
but
this person?" They're more curious. It's all about
yeah,
curiosity and so.
yeah. I
And
I think I
yeah.
got a bit of education, sex education in church actually. I I had a really fun Sunday school teacher. Like the stories she gave us, now I think of it, they're all fake. But then I like the way she went about it. She made it fun, kind of scary, but she was also realistic. So I think I got like good sex education in church. And school, not so much. Yeah.
A lot of
Cause
yeah,
no, go
yeah,
on.
talk. A lot of schools, I think then the school I was attending before I changed, I heard my brothers they got proper sex education in primary school. But then when I changed
Oh,
schools, I didn't get that experience. But I don't think I learned much about it. By the time they were telling me things about sex, they didn't even tell us about sex. They just told us about our body, and they just said it the same way my mother said it. If you, as a lady, if you go too close to a man, you will get pregnant. That was it. That was the same way they taught us then. So I don't think I got that from school and church. No, not so much. Not at all,
okay.
even
Yeah,
not at all. But these days, I think schools take it up. I think I don't know.
they do.
I'm not
A few
sure.
of them.
But I know I taught in a Christian school where it was still prohibited to talk about these things. In a Christian school,
Really.
they didn't want to bring in the devil in the house, so they kept all those things out. But I don't know how schools do it these days.
But
You
I
didn't
think
get any
in
from
my
school.
time, I know when I was in JS2, this always sanitary pad, they came
Yes,
to my
yes,
school.
yes, 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 yes,
That
yes.
really helped me. Like that helped me to understand more, understand my body more. So I think they gave me my first sanitary pad ever, and I hadn't started seeing my period then.
Late
Like I wasn't
bloomer.
seeing my period then. So when I finally saw my period, like a year later, I was confused still. Like it was strange. So I met my mom after like gathering mind now. Like, mommy, I think I've started seeing my period. She said, "Eh, she always came to your school now. They gave you that book and bad. Go and use it." Like how? Go and use it. I think they gave us a small, like it was a very tiny book. But that book was so precious to
Yeah,
me because I learned
yes.
a lot. So that one helped me actually. So and my school always did stuff like that, and it was very
Yeah.
nice. I hope they still do it.
I really hope they do now that all sanitary pads are so expensive. But yeah, I think at the time they came to my school, I was also in JS2, but I had been
Yeah.
seeing my period for like 3 years as of then, 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
So I already I like while they were talking, I was educating the people around me. So they gave me a pack of pads and other people who had not started seeing their periods gave me their own
Yeah.
pack of cards to support my ministry because I was one of the youngest then. Like I think I
Yeah.
started seeing, I matured at about 9 years. So as of then, when I was in JS2, I was like 11, 12. So I already had enough experience
Yeah.
seeing my period. So I didn't get much education. For me, the first day I thought I had an injury. I didn't even know what periods were. I never knew they existed. So I met my mom and I'm like, Mommy, I have an injury. And she's like, where? And I'm like, down there. And she's like, oh, let's go have a talk. I had no idea.
Oh,
So that was the point where I got the talk of you do this, you're pregnant. You're a woman now, you can get pregnant. That's all.
oh.
So mine was more of the tough. I think you had more of the tough love. I just had the surface education.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
I had in-depth education from a book. I even learned about the male body because I think at the end of the book there was just a small chipped in part of the male
Yeah.
body. So I learned about the male body too from that book.
Wow. I wish I had that, but I think I didn't read that much as a kid. I read just fairy tales, Cinderella, and the like. So I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't have read that book. Maybe just look at pictures if it had any. Yeah. So ooh, this has been fun. So thank you so much
Yeah,
for
thank you for
giving me your
having me.
time. Yes,
Yeah.
and I look forward to having you again on my next show.
Okay.
This has been interesting. So,
Yeah, it
bye.
has. Bye. Thank you.